Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today, we have a friend from the family mastermind, Mr. John Nolen. How are you, John?
Doing well yourself?
Doing pretty good, man. We just got off that family call, and
There was
I
some
don't know,
great
man.
stuff in that.
When they talk about that marketing stuff, man, I'm like, can you guys just do a workshop on it? Because it's so much information in an hour.
Yeah, they could go on that stuff for days.
For
And we'd just be
days.
picking up nuggets, and yeah, it was really, really good info.
Good deal, man. So just to get a little bit of a background, man, who are you? Where do you come from? And I want to know all the way back to your upbringings. Like,
All the way back. Okay.
yes, sir.
I grew up in Oklahoma City. My parents were entrepreneurs. Grew up, had a little bit too much fun in college, and that ended up with me leaving
I'm guilty.
YouTube.
I'm guilty.
That ended up with me leaving and going to the Marine Corps. Spent 5 years in the Marine Corps.
Thank you for your
Got out.
service.
My pleasure. Got out, came back, decided, nah, this isn't for me. Went and contracted overseas in the Middle East for a few years.
Okay.
Long story there, but I get back. I got into soft IT and development. Worked for a pharmacy software company for about 10 years, doing everything from setting up computers to training people to developing software and mobile apps. Then I got burnt out. Long story, I got burnt out. My kids had some health issues, needed to have more flexibility of time. Decided to leave that industry and went into real estate full time. We'd been doing it part time and decided to go full time. That was, I don't know, 7-8 years ago.
So let's go back to the military for a moment.
Yep.
So you joined the Marine Corps. How old were you when that happened?
I was 19.
19. Okay. And you did 5 years, so you got out roughly when you were 24. But then you went as a contract.
Yep.
And was that like KBR or something like that, or can you expand on what the contract was like?
Yeah, I was at that point. The first contract I had, I worked as a subcontractor for KBR, and I got embedded with a unit down in Baghdad to fix radios. I was an electronics tech. I could figure stuff like that out. The second half of that, I ended up going to Afghanistan, worked for a small company, and we went around to the little FOBs and set up satellite internet so our troops could have internet out at those small little bases out in the middle of freaking nowhere. And that was cool.
Wow.
Got to meet some really good guys.
And how long did you do as a contractor over there?
Total of 2 years.
2 years. Yep. Good money, I would suppose, right? As opposed to the military money.
Yeah, compared to the military money, yes. But now looking back, I'm like, I did all that for that much money. I should have asked for more.
But you just didn't know any better, man. Like,
Right.
Like when you're in the military, man, I was in the Navy, right? So I remember in 2004, I made $14,000 a year with benefits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe I got the housing allowance or whatnot. So let's say it was $24,000 a year altogether, and that was like I'm banking. I'm a E4 banking money, and I'm scamming the system because I got my housing allowance plus my paycheck to my pay grade or whatnot. I remember I looked at my paycheck one day and it was almost the same as an E6 paycheck.
Really?
Yeah, because of all the stuff that I had in it. But I then joined the oil and gas business. So I used to work offshore. And I remember my dad saying, "Hey, son, you have some paperwork here in my house. Can you go get it?" And because it looks important. So it was my tax returns. And I remember pulling up my tax returns from like 2003. And now this is so fast forward to like 2008 or 9. I'm making multiple six figures working offshore. And I'm like, oh my God, what I used to make in a year, I make it in 15 days now. Like, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's just a matter of like time, right? So, but yes, you're right. Now that you look back and you're like, oh man, I put my life at risk for all of that and for the money and now with real estate this is just a different ball game.
Completely.
And I tell you what, man, you're getting into and we'll talk about the software here in a minute towards the end, but I see real estate as a stepping stone now.
Good.
So yes, I don't. So I've done. I don't know how many flips and wholesale deals.
Hmm.
I used to be the guy doing 40, 50, 60 contracts per month and maybe closing on half of those nationwide. And we had a big nationwide operation. And that's how I started developing all my systems. I'm sure that you started developing your own software because you were fixing your own internal,
Yep.
um,
Exactly.
right? So
Yeah.
now that I'm working on that side, I'm like, what was I doing real estate? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and real estate is good, don't get me wrong. And for a lot of people it's the ultimate goal. But so so you came as a contractor and then I guess is that when you found out about real estate?
Well, my parents had a few rentals when I was growing up. Um, and so I knew about that concept. And when I was in high school, they actually had somebody move out of one. They'd been there for years. And I was the high school kid, so I got to go clean it out.
The,
And it
you
was
you were
bad.
the cleanup
Dogs,
crew. You were the cleanup crew.
uh-huh. Yeah, dogs had pissed all inside. It was nasty. And I remember saying something to about like, why aren't y'all mad? I'd be furious. I'm like, well, I mean, we're not happy, but it's the way it goes. And besides, they already paid off the mortgage for us. And a little light bulb went, wait a minute. So this is like free money for the rest of your life on this house? And that kind of planted the bug. Then years later, my wife and I had some money sitting, and I was like, "Come on, let's put that money to work. Let's make it do something for us." And bought our first rental, and we didn't know any better. We didn't know about wholesaling or finding a wholesaler. We paid retail for a house, and cash flowed zero. But then just kind of grew from there. Started flipping, started wholesaling, started acquiring rentals, and most of those businesses run by themselves now. I don't have to be too involved in them because of
Wow.
systems and processes like you mentioned.
Wow. So let's talk about rentals for a minute. So you have quite a few rentals.
Yep.
Do you do property management or do you self manage or do you have your own property management company? How do you handle that?
Great question. I get that a lot. We self-manage all of our properties, but I think two or three. And when I say we self-manage, I don't manage them. I would not be a good property manager. That's not my skill set. That's not
You will
my
go there and choke
temperament.
the tenant.
Pretty much, or at least want to. So we have somebody on staff that does that for us. We don't do anybody else's. There's not enough margins in it, and I didn't want to scale that kind of business. So we have one person that manages all but I think three of our rentals, and
And
it's worked well for us.
why those three rentals are not with you?
One of them is in another part of the state where we don't have really easy access to, and the other two I've had with the property manager for years, and he's done right by me, and I just keep him there to kind of keep that relationship going.
Good. All right. So now do you do the Burr method? Do you go and buy them, rehab them, rent
Yep.
them, refi them? Can you
Yep.
tell us a little bit about your process on how you source your deals and all that?
Yeah, we market direct to sellers. So when sellers call us, if the property works for us as a rental or as a flip, it doesn't matter which, um, and we're able to help them in their situation, then we take it down ourselves. We buy it discounted, of course. Um, we have some private money lenders. We have some hard money lenders.
Well,
We have
hold on.
sometimes we use our own.
Is it real? Is it really discounted or is it fair market value?
It is fair market value to do in the condition that it's in and closing very fast. So
You know,
great.
I love when we discuss this subject, John, because sometimes as investors we come across as okay, these are the guys that are stealing properties from people, right?
Right.
Because they're getting it discounted, or no, it's the fair market value that the property's condition is on, right?
Yeah.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, because I mean, a lot of times these houses have a lot of problems with them. I mean, there's there's houses, I mean, hoarder houses, houses that dogs have been in forever, houses that animals have died in and just stink to all hell. And realtors won't touch them. They tell people, well, you need to do $40,000 worth of work, and the person's going, I'm about to face foreclosure. I don't have
Or
that
I don't
money.
have the money, right? Or
Yeah.
or I inherited this from somebody. Now this is a problem for me.
Yep.
I
So
I
we
had a house. I had a house that you mentioned, a hoarder house.
Hmm.
We pulled 27 dumpsters out of it. I have never
Wow.
seen so much stuff because it
That.
wasn't just trash. There was just stuff in it. Like it was a 3,000 square foot house to begin with,
Mhm.
a 1 story house, beautiful house. Oh my God, I'll never forget that house. But when we opened up the door, we just didn't know how people walked inside the house. We're like, they
Yep.
had these trails, but it was all the way up to the ceiling.
And what's funny is from the outside, you probably had no idea at all. The
No,
neighbors had no idea what was going on.
and
Yeah.
and and I remember this house as if it was yesterday. The agent was helping the sellers who inherited the property from their parents, and both
Oh,
of the parents were hoarders. So, but they knew they couldn't lease the property because who the heck is going to buy this thing, full of trash? So
yep.
they went to the title company, and the title company said, "Oh, we got you the guy. His name is Ricardo, and he's buying everything up here in this little town.
Nice.
Um, give him a call." So they call me, and I asked the agent. I said, "Tell me how much they want." And they were like, she was like, they want $60,000, not a penny less. And I said, all right, let me plug in the address. And I look at the address. The house is 3,000 square feet. Man, the ARV on thing is 300 plus. And I was like, it's mine. Like I haven't seen it. You
Like,
know,
I'll take it. I'll
I'll
take
take
it.
it. And she was like, and I want $3,000 commission. I said, done. And that was it, man. We went and bought that house.
Nice.
But aside from the trash going to the ceiling, the attic was the same way.
Oh,
So,
goodness.
and talking about under budgeting for the dumpsters, like we
Oh, I
thought,
bet.
okay, 10 dumpsters is gonna do it. It
Now,
was
were those
20.
like 40-yard dumpsters?
No,
Or were
so
they?
I bought a dumpster actually just for this because I'm like, if I'm gonna be doing so many hauls, I might as well buy it.
Hmm.
So we bought a dumpster trailer, the hydraulic one,
I gotcha.
and I forgot how big this was, but it was big. It was pretty big. It was probably a 20 footer or something like that.
We have a lot
Maybe
of trash
even
in that.
longer. Yeah, and it was pretty tall. So yeah, man, we continue and pull and pull and pull, and it was like a never ending story. We're like, oh my god, when is this gonna be done? Um, so okay, you're getting properties at a fair market value from sellers, and you're direct to seller, right? What kind of marketing channels do you use?
Traditionally, we've used mail, and then pay per click and whatnot. Right now, we're just doing TV and radio. We're about to bring mail back in, um, bring it back into the mix. But TV and radio have done really well for us over the last few years.
Did you learn
Which,
from somebody specific, the TV or in the radio?
yeah, we use Tony Javier.
Yeah, that's my boy
On
right there. Yeah, yeah, Tony.
Yep, we use him, and that made it hella simple. We didn't have to. We just read what we were supposed to and smiled in front of the camera and went from there.
Yeah, Tony Javier, and I forgot the name. The guy that teaches radio. He lives in Mexico now. I don't know if you used him, but anyhow, uh, Tony and radio. I mean, TV and radio are very I guess good because you get, especially if you're local, right? If you're doing the local model,
Right.
then you're getting to the people that are driving back and forth to work and all that, and no cold calling or SMS or anything like that.
No, we did SMS for a few years. Had success with it. Then it kind of just tapered off in success. Never did cold calling. I know a lot of people who've done cold calling have had a lot of success with it, but we haven't. Yeah, TV and radio. It gave us a brand. People felt like they knew us. It was kind of weird when I'd show up somewhere
You're
and
the guy
somebody'd
on
be like,
TV.
"Yes," and I was like,
Yeah.
"I pay to be there. I'm not special because I'm there, but hey, whatever, I'll take it." But I don't go out on those appointments anymore. I have more important things to do.
So are you putting your salespeople on the videos now? Because I guess I mean it could be a good or bad thing, but I would say if you put your sales guy on the video, it
That's a
will
good
create
point. I
the
hadn't thought
same.
about that.
But hold on, because that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do. Because what if the sales guy leaves, right?
Hmm. Yeah, he's got his own brand, but it's something
Yeah,
to consider. Maybe having him with us or something. I don't know. That's something worth considering.
yeah, yeah. Because I remember I used to run Facebook ads when nobody was running Facebook ads.
Really?
Literally, this is 2015, man, and what did we know about Facebook back then? Not much. It was just a platform to communicate with all friends.
Yep.
And my business partner Dennis at the time, he was like, Ricardo, we need to start running Facebook ads. And my tolerance for marketing at the time was very low. Like if I put $500 on something, I spent millions. Like I was like, oh my God, $500, I better get something out of it, right? Complete different today. But at the time, we ran these videos on Facebook where him and I will do like it was like, hey, my name is Ricardo Rosales. I am with Same as Cash, and we're here to buy your property. You know, blah 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 blah. And he did it in Spanish because he's Puerto Rican, so he's
Hmm.
like, let me do it in Spanish. You do it in English. Even though my Spanish is probably better than my English, I still did the English one. And I remember pulling up to the appointment, and this lady is like, I've seen you on TV. I've seen you on TV. And I'm like, TV? I never recorded a TV ad. And it was Facebook, basically. I guess she was watching the video on her phone, and for her, that's TV. And this is like a lady on her 70s.
Yeah,
And
people discount and don't think that the older generation, the boomers, use Facebook or streaming TV and stuff. They do. They do. People don't realize it, but they sure do.
when I asked her what she wanted for the property, she said, I want $10,000. And I was like, done. Like, I didn't have to like negotiate or nothing. I just gave her the contract, signed right here. We're gonna close in 2 weeks. And we ended up closing on it actually. And then I guess we sold it to an investor friend of ours, but we were gonna list it.
Hmm.
And before we listed it, one of my friends came in looking for a property. And we were like, we got this one that we can give it to you for 45 grand. And he's like, done, it's mine. And so huge assignment on it, or it wasn't even an assignment. It was because we had taken title to it. Um,
Sometimes those are the best.
yeah, yeah. A lot of times they're the best, right? So all right, you do TV ads, you do radio ads, right?
Hmm.
I would consider this sophisticated. This is a sophisticated operation now because you're putting some money on
Oh
marketing.
yeah.
That's not a $500 campaign like the one I was running.
No.
It probably just cost $500 to talk to Tony from the beginning, right? Um, so okay, so your local model. Have you ever done anything like nationwide or anything like that for wholesaling?
No, we haven't. We've stayed here in Oklahoma. At one point, we were in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Tulsa, we did all right on, but it just didn't have the return that we wanted. So, and I'm sure that was us not putting the right resources in place for it. But we've gone back, and the local model works well for us. We flip about 30 houses a year, pick up rentals. Anything we don't want, we wholesale or wholesale it.
And how many do you think you wholesale?
Um, Wholesale, we don't do a ton of wholesale. Oklahoma's fun with wholesaling. Normally we'll double close them. So we'll close it, take it down.
Yeah,
And we
so
do,
Oklahoma now got laws regarding
yep,
wholesaling that you should be a licensed agent or whatnot. And well, guess what? I
yeah.
still did it. I don't know how
Oh,
many I
lots of
did.
people do.
I don't know how many I did in Lawton, Oklahoma, like in that little town, man. I did trailers and I've done land in there. I've done houses. Uh,
Yep.
dirt cheap, because
Hmm.
that's the kind of
Little
town it
military
is.
town.
Military town, yeah. Um, and I've done some in Oklahoma City. Now I'm out of it now. I'm not even wholesaling anymore. But when I did, I remember the first mailing campaign we did to Oklahoma City was in 2016, and we set ourselves up with like boots in the grounds to go do the face to face appointments.
Mhm.
And man, I remember the first mailing campaign because I used to own my own mailing company. So
You've done
I
a lot.
Oh man, I've done all kinds of things. Maybe one day you'll pull up to a traffic light, and here I am juggling the balls. So, um, but we used to send like I don't know, 12,000 to 20,000 letters to Oklahoma City,
Hmm.
and we'll get 3 to 4 houses just out of the initial mailing campaign. And then we wholesale them because I couldn't flip them, or I guess I could, but I didn't think I could do it at the time.
Well, and you were probably making good returns and flipping your money faster. And
Uh,
I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely.
nothing wrong with
So
that.
no. So okay. So your model, if I understand correctly, is you market direct to seller, you lock
Yep.
them up, you close on them because they're either going to be a flip for you or a rental for you.
Most of the time, yeah.
You wholesale what you guys don't want to keep,
Yep.
and
Or if
that's
our
about
crews
it.
are just backed up.
Okay, perfect. And
Yep.
so are you fully integrated? Like, do you have your own contractors and your own groups that go
Somewhat.
out in?
Somewhat. We have some of our own guys, but we still bring in external as well. Uh, we thought at one point about trying to go deep and have our own HVAC company, electricians and plumbers, and then we decided our time was better spent elsewhere than managing that. People that can do it and scale it and do great, hey, more power to them. For us, it just wasn't the right choice.
Yeah, I did flipping at a scale in between 2016 and 2018, I would say. And when I say at a scale is we were rehabbing 47 properties at a time.
Oh, damn.
And but what worked for us was having our own workers to do all the painting, flooring,
Mhm.
cosmetics basically. But
Yeah.
anything that was mechanical, we subcontracted out.
Yeah, because
So
there's a lot of liability there as well. And if you're contracting that out, then that liability just goes right over to them.
not only that, I mean, getting licensed in Texas for AC, electrical, plumbing. I didn't
It's
want to be a
expensive.
plumber. I didn't want to be a plumber. I didn't want to be an electrician. I didn't want to be a foundation guy. So I just rather go get the mechanicals out.
Yep.
But the crews that were working the homes, I wanted to keep those guys, especially if they were good.
Yep.
Uh, because at that time we also self-manage our rentals, like you are. And
Hmm.
if something broke at a rental, we'll just pull 2 or 3 guys from here, put them on the rental. Nothing happened, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I find it fascinating that you are somehow very similar to how I was a few years ago when I was doing rentals and flipping. Um, I was just doing more properties, but that was just crazy to do. Also, now that I look back, I'm like, why did I do that to myself? Like, it's a lot of
Did it
work.
bring a lot of stress?
Oh man, I used to wake up at I don't know 6 o'clock in the morning, get on the road, go look at all my projects or the projects that I could visit during one day, and then I'll be back home by midnight again. And I did that for 2 years almost,
Mhm.
and I thought I was just getting rich. And I guess I was, on paper and money, but I was neglecting my family. I was neglecting myself. I was neglecting so many other things.
Mhm.
But I was literally running from being poor. That's what it was. Like now that I look back, I was like, I gotta go buy as many as I can. And then we raised a ton of private money that was just waiting for us. And what the private money people liked about us was that we were fully integrated. So when they loan us money, they could see the labor of what was happening when we went and hired people to work and
Yeah.
and so it wasn't hard for us to raise private money. It was the easiest thing. Like they actually brought us the other lenders. Like, hey, you got to give
Nice.
these guys your money because these guys are causing this impact.
That's
um
awesome.
it was
But at the
awesome.
same time, probably I'm going to guess here. One of the reasons that you got into real estate was for time, freedom for your family.
Now, believe it or not, man, when I got into real estate in 2008, I was just watching a TV show called Flip This House.
I
And
remember
I used
that.
to I used to work offshore, and when I was not offshore, I have free time. So I'm
You want
watching
something
this
to do.
show and I'm like, man, these guys are buying a house and making 40 grand out of it. Like, I can do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
I used to run equipment offshore. It's more complicated than flipping a house. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I guess I was wrong on that, but it's funny. So many people, you talk to tons of people, they say they get into real estate so they can spend more time with their family or provide for their family and stuff. And then they do kind of like what you're saying. They work all day, they grind, and it just wears on every aspect of their life. And then they go, oh, wow, I didn't really, I neglected what I said I was doing this for. And I
Well,
think there's a time and place for grinding, but we need to
yes.
take a step back sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the hustle mentality, like that, like, oh my God, you just gotta outwork yourself until you die. No, no, no. I did that already, and guess what?
Mhm.
I don't think it worked. Um, in a way, during that period of my time, I guess I had to do it. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what it was like today.
Yeah,
And now I pay attention to other things more than just working, and working. I still work my ass off, man. I
same here.
and by the way, John, this we're working right now,
That's right.
but it does not seem like work. I'm enjoying a conversation with you, and you're telling me, and I'm telling you, we're exchanging experiences, and um, but I'm not gonna, like, at 6 p.m. and I want to shut it down and I want to be with my kids or go have dinner with them or do things that enrich my personal life more than the money I put on a bank account. But let's get back to you, man. Um, so you guys are somehow, I wouldn't say fully integrated, but you're almost there. You're probably 70 to 80% controlling the whole process.
Mhm.
Um, and what is your goal? Your goal, is it to do more than 30 properties a year, or do you want to keep it at that level? What? Because some people, we get sometimes caught up with the scaling. Like, we got to scale.
Mhm.
If I do 30 now, I got to do 300.
Yeah, and that's changed for us over time. I mean, originally, 8, 9 years ago, goal was to acquire 150 rental properties, and it's based on this long spreadsheet that took averages and came up backed into 150. But then over time, we got caught up in that. A few years ago, we were doing 20 to 30 deals a month, and I was working my ass off, just like
Yeah.
we were talking about. And I was like, no, this isn't worth it. I don't want to be this busy. Yeah, I'm making great money, but I don't need to do that. So we scaled back. I think we'd like to be at the 30 to 50 flips a year. We scaled back last year, so we had more time. But our team is a lot better now. It's doing a lot of things without us, without any input and our direct input. So we want to scale it up to 50 to 60 and then
So,
adding rentals.
delegating, right? The power of delegation. It's
Yep.
it's what's allowing you to grow and
Yep. But
um,
delegation, not abdication. There's times that people say they're delegating and they're really just handing it off to somebody and not checking on it, not following up with them. When you delegate, you still have to have a sort of check and balance where you know that it's actually being done right. Uh, and that's something I learned the hard way. Just handing somebody something, saying, "Here, go do it," and they're going, "I don't know how to do it."
do you have like a supervisor for all these flips? Maybe somebody that, like a superintendent, right? They go check and
Yeah, we have. She's our project manager, so she goes and she's in charge of all of them. And if there's any issues or questions, she knows who to reach out to and take it from there.
what about buying materials, man? How do you handle that part of the deal?
We buy most of the time. We buy the materials, so we can get the discount there because obviously, if if you're letting other people pick out your materials, you can get substandard stuff. You get more expensive things sometimes. So we buy all of ours, pretty much all of ours ourselves. Like even when we're replacing a roof, we pay for the roofing materials ourselves. A crew doesn't get pay for it and upcharge us on it.
Yeah, we use ABC, or we used to use ABC. Or, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm flipping two houses right now, but that to me is like I'm not doing anything regarding to real estate compared to
Right.
what I used to do in the past. Um, and I don't know if ABC is over there in Oklahoma City, but We use those guys, and then what we do is we pay the roofer for the labor,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
and we manage it that way. And we like to control the materials. That's something I learned, like as well, like you mentioned. We actually, this is, and for whoever is listening right now, I don't know if you do this, John, and I'm gonna tell you how I did it, but maybe you have a different way. But when we were rehabbing all these houses, we used to have a warehouse.
Hmm.
Now, the warehouse is where our office was and where we actually started this podcast. It started in that office.
Nice.
Let me tell you why it started. And this is true story, man. One day, somebody came to our warehouse and knocked on the door. Doom, doom, doom. And I opened the door and I'm like, how can I help you? And the guy goes, is Ricardo here? And I'm looking at him like, "Uh,
What the
how can I
hell?
help you?" Like, you're looking at him like, man, I was told that you guys are flipping houses and I came here to pick your brains. And I'm
I've
like,
had that.
what? All right, man, come on in. I mean, you're here already. And my office was it was in Brookshire, which was far away. So if somebody made it out there, they really wanted to talk to us. So the guy comes
Hmm.
in, and I called Dennis, my business partner at the time, and I said, Dennis, this person right here wants to pick our brains. And we gave him like probably an hour or two of our time. But guess what? The following week, the same thing happened. And the following, the same thing happened. And one time, Dennis came in and said, dude, we got to stop this because when you allow these people to come into the warehouse, we give them 2 hours of our time. And then you and I end up going home later because we got to catch up with everything we're supposed to do. And I'm like, man, but I really want to help these people out. Like, how can we do this to where we don't turn them away? And he said, just start a YouTube channel, talk about everything we do, and have them go watch the videos. And if they have questions after that, then we can.
Yep.
And that's how the podcast started. Um,
Nice. Good story.
yeah, and then that's exactly what we're doing. We're just redirecting people to the podcast. But anyhow, when we were buying all these materials, uh, when you start spending a lot of money in Home Depot, they all of a sudden they're like, "Who the heck is this guy?"
Hmm.
So they gave me a call, and I went to Home Depot, and I still buy at Home Depot today. I don't buy everything like I used to, but I still buy a good portion of it. And I go there, and they're like, "Look, we noticed that you're spending a lot of money in materials." And we want to see how we can help you better, right? We
Hmm.
want to give you discounts. We want to give you gonna put you in the bullpen so you get discounts when you spend more than $1,000 per transaction, and we're gonna do this and blah 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 blah. But
Yep.
one of the problems I had was storing materials for projects, and that's why we originally picked a warehouse. The thing we realized is that the warehouse became the place where we put the leftover materials, not the new
Yep.
materials.
I've done that.
Right, so we
Hmm.
can relate there, right? So I'm
Yep.
like, hey, my warehouse is actually full of leftovers. And what I do is before I start a new project, I go to the left because all my houses look the same, by the way. They don't. I got turned down by HGTV because they told me to change the model that I was running, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna change it. That like I have a cookie cutter system.
They didn't want to see the same house every week.
No, and honestly, John, I didn't
It
even
helps
take
save money.
pictures. And I didn't take pictures of a lot of houses like the agent did, but I didn't because I'm like, it's the same granite, it's the same color in the
Hmm.
walls, it's the same, laminate flooring. So I talked to Home Depot and I said, how long can you store materials here after I buy them and then ship them to my projects before it becomes a problem for you? And they said 45 days. And I said,
Store them there.
bingo, this is where I'm storing my materials now. I made the purchases. I bought everything I needed, but it will just stay in Home Depot. And when I needed something, I'll just pick up the phone and say, hey, can you send this to whatever house? You can do this today, by the way. I'm going to assume you're
Nice.
buying in multiple places.
We
Um,
do.
yeah. So how
We
do you
do. But
handle
like
that? How do you handle that? Because that becomes a problem.
it does, and we've done that. We have a storage. We call it a storage facility, but it's not really a storage facility for that. Where we keep materials, and yeah, there's a lot of leftovers that end up in there, and this and that. But one of the things we use it for is when we buy flooring, we use the same flooring at 98% of our houses, whether it's a flip or a rental or whatnot. So we buy it by the pallet and it gets delivered there. And then when guys need it, they go pick it up. If we were buying just a few boxes every time, that wouldn't make sense. But when we're buying in bulk, we get it a lot cheaper. And then even with their labor to load and unload, it's worth it. For other materials, we use Home Depot and Lowe's. We use them both. Um, they both have their strengths,
Yes.
but it's the same. And you try to put stuff together as much as you can, so people are getting all their materials or all for a portion of time. Doesn't have to be every material for a house, but get all of it together so you do get those bigger discounts. And then, especially when you're doing your own guys, and you'll understand this when you're paying them by the hour, you don't want them making 4 trips to Lowe's or Home Depot every week.
No.
That's a lot of freaking time that you're paying them to drive, walk around, stand around. No, get rid of that. That's a lot of waste that kills people.
Yeah, I got to the point to where we had our own truck, we had our
Mhm.
own trailer and our own dumpster, and I just had a driver, man, just going around and around and around. And but we were doing again 40 houses at a time, so it made sense, to have somebody doing all these different stops. Um, but I guess if you're doing 3 to 4 projects at a time, maybe not. That you can still get your supplier to deliver the material when you need it. The one thing we avoided, and this is because I pay the price. I mean, ask me how I learned. Something happened to me, and I'm like, I will not do that again.
Yep.
Is I will buy all the materials for a house and send it over. And what happened was I did like 3 or 4 projects like that, and guess what? All the material walked away.
Yep. I've made that mistake as well. And
So yeah,
nobody knows where they go.
no,
Nobody has any idea, but oh man, all those doorknobs are gone.
yeah,
All that copper is gone for the Romex. Yeah, you can't do it. It sounds like a great idea to get a bigger discount,
it's
but
not.
no, you end up having too much walk away.
Yeah, so what I did is I bought the materials. I left them in Home Depot because now they gave me
Mhm.
30 to 45 days to retrieve the material. And I will send the guys to pick it up. Or if it was pallets and stuff like that, then I'll pay for the delivery. That's another thing.
Mhm.
You might start paying a little bit more on the delivery side, but I'm okay. My material is safe and
It,
it's not
it's
at risk.
safe, and you're not having to pay somebody probably about the same amount per hour to go
They
down,
lose 3 hours
pick it up. Yeah,
while they go there, while they stand in line, while they retrieve the stuff, and then when they go back, it's 3 hours.
yeah.
And
And it's
that's three
always
hours.
2 or 3 guys. It's never just one.
Oh yeah.
They all want to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, because they gotta pick multiple things, right?
Hmm. Yep.
One guy needs to pick the toilet, the other guy needs to pick the whatever in the kitchen. So what we do is we had a materials coordinator, and by that at that time, John, I did it locally. Like I was paying, good money for somebody to go to my office and coordinate the materials. Today,
Well, you have to with that
I would just have a
size.
VA to do that. I would just get a VA and do it, and a good VA, right? Somebody that can understand the process, and
Hmm.
because it will be half the price of what I would pay somebody here locally to do it. Um, so all right, fast forward now. What Where do you see yourself in moving forward regarding real estate? Like continue to add properties, flip more. What does that look like?
We're gonna start flipping more, get up to 50, 60 a year, but with less and less involvement from myself. And then we'll add some more rentals. Originally our goal was 150. We're at 129. We're close there. We're at the point that now, if we have one that's not performing well, instead of just going, okay, well, it's going to be a great
Get
investment
rid
for
of
now,
it.
just sell that thing. So doing that, and then traveling. My wife and I, who's my business partner, love traveling. We have our own plane. We fly around, take our kids with us, and that's what we want to do. So we want our business to be able to run whether we're here or not.
What kind of plane do you have? I'm curious.
We have a twin engine Cessna.
Have you ever connected with Rob Swanson?
Yeah,
So
yes, I know Rob.
he's also a plane owner, and he
Yep.
goes
Tony Javier is
everywhere.
as well.
Was that?
Tony Javier is as well.
Oh yeah, I
He's
didn't
a,
know that.
yep. He has the plane with the parachute.
Wow, that's
So
that's that's amazing.
yeah, ours has two engines, and so it's bigger inside, and the kids have space, and they don't fight, and it it's nice for us. We flew to Iceland a few, I guess, a little over a month ago.
How long can you travel on your plane?
With reserves, we can safely go about 5 hours.
Okay, so you couldn't go to Europe, but I guess you
We,
could if you go through the north.
yep, that's how we would have to go. Like going to Iceland, we had to stop in Greenland, Canada, and Greenland, and then vice versa on the way back. But it's awesome. It allows us to get where we want to go fast. If we want to go to our cabin in Colorado, it's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour flight instead of a 12-hour drive.
Right.
That's freedom, being able to
Let
move
me
around like that.
let me ask you a question because I love flying. By the way, I'm actually flying tomorrow to Miami, and
Nice.
then on Saturday I'm going to Venezuela. But I'm a passenger. I'm buying a plane ticket in United, right? So, um, how much does it cost to keep an airplane run, like an airplane that you fly, right? I've always wondered. I just don't know, right? And I'm like, because I don't think
it
there's
de-
enough education out there for guys like me.
it depends a lot on the type of plane and what you're doing. Like when people think of small airplane, they think of a Cessna, high wing, looks like a weird bug or something.
Right.
Those aren't too expensive, especially the older ones. Those aren't too expensive. They only burn like I think 6 or 7 gallons an hour on average. Fuel, depending on where you're at in the country, is $5, $7 a gallon for AV gas. So those aren't too bad. But one like ours, we burn average of about 35 gallons an hour, and so we're spending again, depending on where we're in the country, $5 to $10 a gallon on
So for
fuel.
you to
And
go
then
from Oklahoma City to Panama City, Florida, roughly,
mhm,
how much money in gas will you spend?
going down there, let's see, we'd have about 4 hours of flight time down there. So our fuel would probably be about 800 there and probably like 1200 coming back.
Right.
Um, but that's just the fuel, the insurance, the inspections that you have to have done every year, the ungodly high cost of parts. Our operating costs are probably about, aside from fuel, probably about $200-300 an hour. So all in all, 500 to 600 bucks an hour for a plane like ours.
Okay. And so if you have to sum that up a year, what would that cost?
You're going to make me do that math and say how much I spend.
Well, it's roughly. You don't have to like be
Nah,
exact, right?
you're fine. We spend probably 75, 80 grand a year on it.
But you write that off 100% too.
Yeah,
It's
it's
that.
good, and it moves us around.
I mean, I probably spend just as much money on my plane tickets, right? I flew last year over 100,000 miles, probably.
Oh wow,
Um, yeah, I go overseas a lot, and I love traveling just like you guys do. And
nice,
I think I got that from when I was in the military and the oil and gas business. I went everywhere in the world, and I was like, oh my god, why? How come I haven't explored the world more than where I live or where I grew up, right? And this year, actually, I almost have one overseas trip every month for the next 6 or 7 months.
very nice.
Yeah, we're going to the one that I'm excited the most is a place that I've never been is Istanbul, Turkey. I'm going there in April,
I've
and
heard
we're
it's
going there
awesome.
for like. Have you been there?
No, I haven't. I knew people that have been there, and I've always heard it's great.
Yeah, so I'm going there for 10 days, and I'm excited about it. Last year I went to Cusco, Peru, and Machu Picchu, and all of that, and had an
Nice.
amazing time. If you never been, man, you have to go check it out.
I will get there eventually. After our kids are out of high school, one of Amy's and my plans is to take our plane and go literally around the world. We've mapped out a rough plan of where we would go. We
Wow.
take several months to do it, but hop around Europe, Africa, Middle East, go all the way down to New Zealand, back up, go along the coast, Asia, and then
Which
up around
is the
Alaska.
easiest way to go from continent to continent? Is it through the north side or to the south side or
The north,
the north?
yeah, by far the north. Um, the tip of it's Chile that goes all the way down to the tip of South America, right? From there to Australia is far, far further
Yeah.
than North America to Europe or Asia.
Wow.
So,
And this is, I'm glad we're talking about this, John, because this is the beautiful thing about being a real estate investor.
mhm,
And you own your time, number one. So whenever you want to go and take a vacation, you can do it.
right.
Yeah, you're waiting on your kids to graduate high school, and that's different, right? I'm in the same boat. I have two little ones. One is 5, another one is 8, and I have to wait for a very long time before they can travel with us. Uh, when it's off season, right? When it's cheaper to travel, especially buying plane tickets. But think about this: so you take your airplane to Europe, right? And you have to do all these different stops or whatnot. But if I take my family of 4 to Europe in coach, not in business, it's about $2,500 a pop just on the plane ticket. So it cost me 10 grand to go back and forth coach, not
hmm
business. Although if I put it on my own airplane, why not? Right? I just need to learn how to fly one, right? And that
I
takes
will
time.
say, flying yourself still is gonna be more between all the fees and everything else,
But
and
when you
then
get the when you
but you
get a
have the
group of
time,
people,
and you have the time. That's the
yeah.
big thing. You're not looking at, okay, oh man, my flight has to leave at 6 a.m. Then I'm going to sit at this other airport for 7 hours. Oh, screw that. You just plan it around when you want to leave.
And I'm actually going to Destin in March because my son wants to go to the beach. And he asked me, Dad, how long is the trip to Destin? And I said, I don't know, 8, 9 hours. And he's like, literally, why don't we fly? And I was like, it's not cost effective, man. It's like, I will spend $3,000 just to get back and forth when I can just drive there and stop at different places and then we come back. So he's 8 years old and he's already thinking about the cost of time. Like,
That's
screw
good.
driving.
That's good.
Now, this is a
That's
problem. He watches Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast has got money coming out of his ears, so he can do whatever he wants,
yep.
um, but okay, so let's get back to real estate, man. You you have a pretty solid operation now, and you were telling me before the podcast about your software. How
Mhm.
do you get to where you're like, I'm gonna write my own software for to fix some of my own problems?
Let's start. I like solving problems. That just goes back to my core. So that's kind of where that initiative came from. But going back to my previous career, I was in development, I was in IT. And so when I would see inefficiencies in our systems and problems that our staff was having, I couldn't sit there and just watch it happen and not do something to fix it. And the way that I knew to fix it was to eventually it became, I'm just gonna have to write something that'll do this itself for them. Because there are integrations between different softwares that can do a lot of things. And Zapier is an amazing tool, but it's not perfect. It doesn't do everything. And I was just tired of having stuff in 8 different systems, I think.
Multiple systems, yeah.
Yeah. And then training people when somebody new would start. I mean, yeah, we have videos and you have SOPs, but getting people used to the way this system runs. But then after a contract, they're coming over to this system. They have to look at multiple places to know what tasks they have. It's a lot easier to train staff on one system than a bunch of them.
So tell me about your system. What does your system do?
Pete is it solves the complexity of having a lot of different softwares and juggling and waste on that. So it's a CRM, it's a phone system, task management, project management, um, e-signature, file management. So easy example, somebody texts in pictures to us. We don't have to go to a different app or go to a different website, look at them, download them, save them somewhere. They're just right there in our software. If we want to share them with somebody, one click and we share them away, or 2 clicks, I guess, and we can share them with somebody. So,
Sending DocuSign, all of that stuff. It's integrated.
yep.
Um, so will you say the CRM is built more for lead management, which is follow up, or for cold outreach?
More for a follow up. It's not a power dialer. I think is kind of where your
Yeah,
mind's going there. It's
yeah,
not a
yeah,
power
yeah.
dialer. It's designed for you active leads.
Amazing. We have a call center, and our strongest point is actually our lead managers. It's not necessarily the cold callers. Cold callers are good. Like we got a bunch of amazing guys doing cold calling. But I think when a client comes in and has a platform like yours, or they're using Salesforce or whatever, uh, we the first thing we I look at is especially if they're friends of mine. I'm like, how many leads you got on your CRM? And they're like, oh, we got thousands of leads. And so why you want to go create new leads when you have all these leads sitting in there? Let's just go dive in your CRM and start
Yep.
pulling, hitting everybody up that you already had a conversation with in the past. I guarantee you have 10 to 20 contracts sitting in there right now.
Yep.
And sure enough, our guys go in there and they just start going through the CRM and they extract, and then they never go to cold call because they keep on feeding to the CRM,
People
and that's all the
forget
goal is.
how yeah, people forget how valuable follow up is, and they may have a drip campaign for 2 weeks for somebody or a month. Our drip campaigns go out well over a year, and then they reset. So you're always staying in communication with those people until they sell the house or um, have a different significant event. Um, we always want to be continuing to follow up with them. So that's smart. And it's kind of funny that they come for cold calling and they go, let's work your old leads.
Yeah, because I mean, if they have them in the CRM, I'm the one that suggested, like, dude, just go tag the ones that you talked to already. Let's just revive those relationships and kind of like going back with your ex girlfriend or something. Like, let's go ahead and knock on that door real quick and see what happens. But I mean, we always revive dead leads that were there and they turn into agreements. Now, does your software also take them to the flipping aspect of things? Maybe landlording. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it goes all the way through purchase. You can manage the purchase, goes into can manage the rehab, has project management. We don't do property management yet. We are going to add that hopefully later this year, just as a natural evolution, but we're not quite there yet. And then a lot of reports, custom KPIs that people can pull instead of having everybody type into a spreadsheet and look in their CRM how many leads, how many web leads they get, how many phone calls, trying to pull all that in. It's just right there in front of them. So it can take the property all the way through initial lead, all the way up until the sale.
Wow, that's amazing. I did that, but I like you said, I used multiple systems. Now this is years ago, and I remember I built on Trello a sequence that was like that. I don't know if you're familiar with Trello.
Yep.
Um, but Trello was more of a checklist type of app. And, I then met a marketer. His name is Keon. We became business partners for some time. And Keon used to use Airtable. So
Mm-hmm.
we
Use your
combined
table.
my Trello sequence for real estate with his Airtable sequence for marketing. And now today, if you look at my CRM on Airtable, it's just something that is taking years to get to where we have it. But it's not proprietary. I actually don't even talk about it much. I don't sell it or nothing like that. I just use it for my own purposes. But if I could have access to what you have, and I'm in the business of lead generating and buying, rehabbing, and then selling, it just makes lives a lot easier because it's all on one spot. You don't have to go and connect all these different things and go to
Exactly.
multiple workspaces. Um, so maybe in the future we can. I want to explore the opportunity to do a podcast where you showcase the software and we can
Yeah,
promote it. I don't know if you
be
guys do
happy to.
affiliate. Yeah, so we just need to talk to Maria Angel. She's the girl that schedules all of those things for us. Um, and we'll go from there, man. If there something, tell me about, and we're about to wrap up. Tell me about your worst deal. What was your worst deal that you're like, this is a nightmare. I lost money. I don't want
I know,
this to happen on anybody.
I know exactly which one it was. I was only like a year two in, bought a house in a historic district. Actually got it through a realtor off market, but I was told it wasn't in the historic district. And this wasn't just a normal historic district where people in the community kind of run it and stuff. No, this was state mandated. So all the people that were on the board were appointed by the governor. And we found out after we had just replaced all the windows, all these old wood
Wow.
windows with vinyl windows, we got a sticker slapped on the door to stop. And that was a very expensive lesson. There was other stuff that went on with that. Um, Contractor went bad. Now you name it, and it happened on that project pretty much, except for a fire. Thank God there was no fire. Um, and that I don't know how much we
A
lost on
fire would
that
have
one.
probably helped you out, get some money back, man.
Yeah, it would have. It would have. But learned a big lesson on that one, and I know exactly where the historic districts are before we flip a property because that was huge.
Now, do you stay away now because of that from historic districts?
We don't. We know what's going on now, so we can do flips in those. We don't do a lot of them, but we can do them. The biggest the biggest hurdle in it was if you think about anything dealing with the government, if you just outright defy them, they think you're just giving a big middle finger to them. So the state thought we were just saying screw you, we don't care. Then our contractor was not helping that. We had to mend that relationship with the state, and we have a decent relationship with them now. They know we're going to try to do things right, but it's something to think about before doing one in a historic area. Is okay, what's the pain gonna be here?
Yeah, especially if like the windows are old and shut closed, right? Like
Hmm.
you can't open them. I've had that happen before. I'm like, man, what about these windows? I can't get it to open. And guess what? If I'm gonna sell the house, it's not gonna pass an inspection.
Nope,
Um,
and wood windows are at least double the cost.
yeah, wood windows. That's right. So that's what they are. Ask me how I know, right?
Yep,
And
exactly.
yeah, that's I never had one at a historic district, but I've had windows that are wooden windows and that were shut closed, and
Mhm.
um I didn't think of it until I was done with it, and I'm like, okay, let me open these windows up, and they would not open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's in our checklist at the beginning before a project actually starts is checking all those windows.
yeah. How do you pass an FHA? You know, a deal like that? Never. It's just not gonna happen.
Sure.
Um, so so that's one of the worst deals. What's one of the best deals you've done?
Best deal. I'll say this at the time it was my best deal. I've done better deals since, but this was our first flea house. First house that I got fleas in. Got fleas in it after I bought it. It looked like a good deal. It wasn't going to be great. Went in and took it down. Tried to wholesale it. Nobody really bid on it, so ended up flipping it. And I think we bought the house for like 40 grand. Put a little bit of money into it and sold it for over 100.
Wow.
So percentage wise, that was at that point like, oh damn, this is really good. But I did get fleas and gave my sister-in-law fleas, and that was interesting.
I tell you a story about those fleas, man. I went to see this property south of Houston. Um, and when I pull up there, there's all these other investors. They're walking the property, like,
Hmm.
you know, getting in and out. And I knew some of the guys, right? And I used to drive a Mercedes at the time. So I get off my car. I think at this time I was still working in the oil and gas business. So I was wearing like a suit and like a nice shirt. I was in the management towards the end of my oil and gas career. And one of the guys comes out and he's like, "Do not go in there." And I was like, "Why?" And I was like, "There are fleas and ticks everywhere."
Ticks.
And I'm like, "Man, this guy's lying. He just doesn't want me to buy the property." Like, so, you know,
I would have
sometimes,
thought the same thing.
yeah, people will like tell you things to scare you away, and you're thinking like, "Oh hell, he's gonna go buy this thing." And so I'm like, whatever. So I walked inside, and man, and this dude wasn't lying. There were ticks and fleas everywhere. So
Oh.
I ended up, and I didn't buy the house, by the way. I went around, took pictures, I did everything I wanted to do, and now I'm like, oh my god, I'm just trying to get these things off of me. And
It's
and
hard.
when I go outside, these dudes are laughing. They're like, "We told you," and I'm like, "Bro, I gotta get all these things off of me." So I started taking everything off, And I went and asked the lady next door to let me borrow their gardening hose. And guess what I did? I took a shower right there on my underwear, man. This is like 1 p.m. in the afternoon. It's broad daylight. And I took all my clothes off. I asked her for a bag, and this lady is just laughing. She's like, "Ah, you're naked here on my yard." She gives me a
Yep.
bag. I put all the clothes inside, and I drove back home. It was probably a good hour and 20-minute drive because this is far away. It's on the other side of town. Houston is
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah, it is.
And when I get home, I get out of my car, and my wife looks at me and is like, "What the hell are you doing on your underwear?" And I tell her the story, and I said, "Look, I didn't want these sticks and fleas to get inside the car because then that's even worse, or
Hmm.
even bring them back home, right?" But I only imagine if I get pulled over by a cop when I, when I'm driving, like what do I tell the guy? Like,
Like,
like
officer, I swear
I
this is
swear
unbelievable, but it is true.
I am not under the influence of anything right now. The ticks and fleas. So, anyhow, John, thank you so much for being here today, brother. You have an amazing story, and we got to do a part two of this podcast so we can see your platform, we can see how it works, we can invite people to use it. I wish I would have had a platform like the one you're describing when I was doing all these flips at a scale. I think it will help a lot of people out. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience before we end the podcast?
Man, just keep going, keep moving forward. That's my biggest thing for people is just have perseverance and keep moving forward. Everybody has days that and weeks and just seasons that absolutely suck. Just keep moving forward.
Awesome,
That's
brother.
it.
Well, guys, don't forget to hit share, like, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that button. I want to see you on the next one. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.